Welcome everybody. My name is Denise Cowell and I am a Creative Memories Advisor, and today we are working in our 52 weeks of project recipes, and we are going to be doing project recipe 5. So just a reminder, if you have the book, we're on 5, and if you go to my Scrapbook with Denise Facebook group, you can find the original project recipe under Files, Scrapbook with Denise Facebook, and we are going to be working through those today. So let's go to my desk and let's see here what we need. Okay, so for this project recipe, you're going to need 4 sheets of designer paper. 2 are going to be for the background, and 2 you're going to need to like both sides of, and then 1 sheet of cardstock. For the tools, again, we're going to need our 12-inch trimmer. We're going to need our border maker with the cartridge. This time we are going to need a chain punch. So a chain punch is one that will cut out, will detach from the paper on both sides. Okay, so I'm going to be using the Infinity. Again, if you want to be labeling your pieces, there are quite a few pieces today. It's got a lot of little pieces that we're going to be using. So if you need those, by all means get those, as well as your tape runner and your repositionable tape runner. So let me put these to the side and let's do what we normally do and compare to make sure there's no differences between the project recipe for silver and gold and the one that I have up on my Facebook with Denise, which is Keep the Faith. And by looking at these, they look to be the same. So there's no changes in the project recipe. So just for ease, I'm going to use the paper copy. It takes up less desk space. So the 2 sheets that I am going to be using for the background, you can see here they have the ones with the words and then the brick. And I am going to be using the Keep the Faith paper, but again, you can use any paper that you want for these layouts. And in the book, they are using the gold and silver collection with the brocade punch. Yes, so any paper that you want, any chain punch that you want. So these are the 2 that I am going to be using for my base. So I'm going to put those to the side right now. So my other sheets that I have is for designer paper number 1, which is the green. So if we look at where the green is going to be, this is, I'm going to be using this black with a pattern, and then on the back is this white and blue and brownish with a pattern. For my designer paper number 2, which is the blue ones, and you can see where we're using blue. Blue is also for some mats and then some other borders, and this border here is going to have from both. So this is why you're going to have to like both sides, because you're going to be making this border along the bottom. So I'm going to be using this brown diamond, and then I have the shimmer, the platinum shimmer cardstock, which is, again, most of those are for mats. So let's get started with designer paper number 1. And again, let's look at where these pieces are going to be on our layout. And as you can see, I make notes all over mine. I know I'm making the black one. So we're going to have 2 borders. We're going to have a 2.5-inch piece. And we're going to have some mats. So again, if you're not cutting mats, we'll leave those off when we get there. And then we're going to have these pieces along the bottom. So again, if we look at designer paper number 1 is green, there's our mats. We can see we're going to use a large part of it to make this border along here, along this side, and then 4 of those pieces will go here, and then 1 here. So let's look at designer paper number 1. If you're directional, again, lots of this is for mats, may not make a difference for the direction. So just take a look before you start cutting. So let's get the 12-inch trimmer out. I'm going to move these pieces out of the way for now. And actually not quite, because we are going to first of all punch our border. So sorry about that. We're going to punch first. So again, remembering when we're using the border maker that our 2 feet are going to be sticking out. Put that in. Grab our taper holder, open that up, and we're going to be cutting 2 borders. So put your paper in, making sure you're checking your direction of your paper. paper holder behind. And again, we will punch 2 borders. Making sure again that your feet are clicking in, right? This little notch on the border maker housing is matching up to the notch on the paper holder. So I am doing piece A. And again, if you want to be labeling these, you can be labeling them. And we will get rid of the little pieces. And now we were going to be cutting piece B. Open up that. Always have a pile of punch outs on the floor. Okay, so there's our 2 pieces, piece A and B. I'm just going to put those at the top. You're still going to need our punch because we're going to have to punch from the platinum shimmer or whatever cardstock you're using. Okay, so let's go and look at our next piece, and it's going to be a 2.5 by 12. So again, it doesn't matter which way you want to cut, which side of the paper, but we will cut that at 2.5. And that's a 2.5 by 12, so we're just going to put that to the side. The next one we are also going to have at 2.5, but we're going to cut these in multiple pieces. So what we're going to do is take this 2.5 inch by 12 piece, rotate it, and to get D and E, you can see we're going to be cutting 2.5 by 2.5. There's a lot of writing in this mats or the 4x6s that it gets confused. So we're going to cut 2 of these that are 2.5 by 2.5. And let's just put those aside for a minute. This piece that's left should be 2.5 by 7, right? So that's piece H. Mine don't go up to H, but I'm looking through my ABCs and I only up to G. But if you're labeling, this is piece H, okay? We are going to take these 2 pieces that say D and E and F, and we're going to put those on the angle. So you're going to line up each tip with the black line on your cutter. You're going to line up each tip, right? And it should actually, if you push it along this 45-degree angle, you should still be able to line up the 2 tips and be on that angle, and you'll know you're correct. And we are going to cut those in half, and we're going to do that to the F and G piece also. See, as I do, I don't usually use that line for these. I just line up my 2 corners on the black dotted cutting line. Now we are going to be using some of these reverse. I'm not going to reverse them now. We'll do that when we make this border. So I'm going to put those pieces aside. That's going to be our border. So the last piece is going to be our mats, which are 4 by 6. So we're going to cut this at 4 inches. Again, if you don't use mats, you don't need to cut this at this time. So we're going to cut this at 4 inches. This piece is extra, so you can put that aside. We are going to pull out our arm. Again, you can put up that little foot underneath to make sure that it's sturdy, and then cut this at 6 inches. And those are our 2 mats. And those are pieces I and J. And those are going to be going on the right-hand side. So again, I'm just going to put those in a pile to the side. And we're going to move on to our second piece, from me, which is the brown designer paper number 2. Again, it's going to be where we're going to be putting the blue pieces on the back, the blue colored pieces. So we're going to cut this first piece. K is 2.5. So you can label this K if you'd like to. So that's K. The next one is also going to be, sorry, this first one was at 2. So again, I apologize. This first piece was at 2. So what I'm going to do with my 2.5 inch piece is I'm going to cut L, M, N, O, and P. So it's because I have a 2.5 inch piece. So I'm going to just go back. Sorry for confusing you, but if you cut the 2.5 inch piece with me, keep that aside. We're going to cut that, but we are going to go and cut K, which is 2 inches, and we're going to put that one aside. Now I'm going to take my 2.5 inch piece that I cut by mistake. Again, nothing is a mistake. Remember, this is a recipe and a guide. we can make changes to it. It's just a guide. So this is going to be L and M is 2.5. N and O is 2.5. Put those aside because we're going to cut them in back. And again, we should have another 2.5 by 7-inch piece, which is piece P. I'm going to put that with my other one because I know where those are going to go on the right hand side. Now we're going to take these two pieces, L and M, M and O. We're going to cut those in half just the same way as we did with the other two. So make sure we line those up. Make sure that you're holding it because it is a small piece and it will maybe want to jump around. So again, I'm just going to put those with my other pieces for now. And we'll cut this one in half. Okay, so what we should have here, should probably be, not probably, it should be a 7.5-inch piece, which it is. We're going to cut 1 inch off of it to make it 6.5. And this little piece S, we're going to keep this. This is not for another project. This is piece S. So let's put that aside. And we're going to rotate this 6.5-inch piece to 4.5 inches. And again, these are mats. So if you're not using mats, you don't want to cut your mats now, you don't need to cut them at this time. So we have 2 mats, which are Q and R. We're going to put this piece aside for a separate project. And our last piece that we are going to be cutting is our platinum shimmer, or your cardstock, whichever cardstock you are using. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to punch 3 borders. So let's bring back our paper holder. Now some of the cardstock can be a little bit bigger than 12 by 12. So if it doesn't quite fit, you could trim it down a little bit. See, this one here kind of won't fit. So I'm going to measure it before. It just makes it easier to put it in the paper holder if it actually is 12 by 12. And it's usually the cardstock that has a little bit of a variance, and it could just be just that little bit. And make sure your foot is up so that it is cutting straight. Okay. And just trim that off. So I'm going to get my paper holder back, and we are going to cut these. And see, now they fit a lot better than what they did. I'm gonna, doesn't matter. Okay. And we are going to be cutting 3, let me put this back on this side so we can see what I'm doing. We're going to be cutting 3 borders. And since this is a little bit thicker, I'm going to have to press a little bit harder. Okay. So, and again, if you want to keep these little punch-up pieces, that's up to you. So we'll get rid of that. So we have 1 border, and we will open up the paper holder again. You do have to do it after every cut. And we will cut the second border. And 1 more border. And open that one more time. Line it up. Third border. And then the rest of this is going to be mats, and this is actually making a double mat. So again, if you aren't making mats, then you can save this paper, or you can cut them later. So we are going to cut this at 6 inches. And then we are going to rotate it, and we are going to cut in at 4 inches. Okay, so let's put those mats aside. And this is extra. And we will start laying out our layout. Again, as you know, I always like dry fitting. So I get my 2 13-inch mats. And we are going to attach some of these together because we're going to make this border and attach some of the border as we go along. So we have our 2 base pages. And if you want to put a little bit of repo or some washi tape to hold your base pages. So let's go ahead, and the right hand side is pretty straightforward. So let's go and lay that one out. We are going to need I&J, which was your designer paper number 1, and that is going to be 2 mats. And then we will need one of our cardstock is another mat. And then up at the top here, it says we need piece S. So S was that small 1-inch piece. That will go at the top. And again, you can see which side works better for your layout, right? You can see here, it's just kind of a contrast. And then you're going to take one of each of the colors, so that V and B, and you're going to line them up. And what they have done is they have put the designer paper on the bottom and then the cardstock on the top and then layered it. And then the only other thing that goes on the right hand side is these 2.5 by 7-inch pieces. And those 2 pieces will actually go and frame this. And that's it for the right hand side. Very simple. So these take 2 5 3/4 by 3 3/4 pictures. Actually, all 3 of them are. Would be still good to use 4 by 6 peekaboo pockets for those. So that's the easy page. Let's move on to the left hand side. And then what we're going to start with first is all of these triangles, and they're going to go along the bottom. And so if you do it the way that they say, starting with D, so the black, for me it would be the black ones, and we're going to use 2 on the black side and 2 on the, for me, like a white side, and the brown ones 2 and 2. So it wants me to start with E, and you can see they only have one reverse. You can put them however you want, and what they are going to do is line up at the bottom of your page. Let me bring this up a little bit, make sure I'm in camera, and then just go back and forth and start overlapping them. Right, so let's just get these lined up again however you want to do them. Looks like. Then it says, for the triangle, start by adhering piece E, then layer the triangles from the right side to the left, following the sketch. Again, you do how you think you would like them to show up. And I am just going to dry fit them, and I am very much a pattern person, that they're all going to be the same. So I might just do it that way. So it looks like when we're lining these up, we start at the edge, they are about an inch apart. Not quite. Let's, oh, there, that would be an inch. So you can see this one goes to 2 less than 2, 2 less than 9, 2 less than 8, 7, 6. Let's see if it works out. 5, 4, 3. A little bit more than that. Okay, so let's attach these. So I'm going to attach the first one. I'm going to use Repo, and let's get my silicone mat down here. I will use Repo so that this way you will be able to move them if you don't quite like where you lined up. Again, you can use the instructions at the bottom. It will line up to just under 10 inches. So if you want to actually put it at 10 inches, it'll have a little space at the bottom. So I'm lining at 10 inches. You could use a ruler, and I have a ruler here that you could use the ruler to make sure you're straight. Again, depends on how accurate that you want to be. I wouldn't push on them yet if you're using Repo, because it could pull off a little bit of the color of the paper underneath. So just lightly put them in place with the Repo, trying to keep my paper straight because I didn't attach anything on the bottom, and maybe I will. Just make sure that if you put Repo on your mat that you take it off right after you you take your paper off, so that it's a lot easier to clean. So again, just eyeball them the best you can. And you can move them afterwards. So if you don't like where they actually end up, you could move them. Because I think now I'm going a little bit further apart than I did at the beginning. Yeah, so this one I did way too far. The other thing you might be able to do is, if you put this back, this should probably give you, there you go, this would also give you, except this one goes next, this would also give you kind of the distance, right, of how far to put them apart. And that should work. Okay, so I'm going to keep going on this. I'm going to let you guys finish this off camera. Let's go put the rest of this page together. So again, I said, see, I'm going to just continue to kind of play with it, but I'm going to play with it off camera. Let's put the rest together. So what you're going to do once you have this entire border together, this one's sticking way in the wrong spot, is we're going to get piece C. So C is this, for me, up the black paper, that's 2.5. We're going to put that, and that is going to line up right with our border. So I'm going to have that at 10 inches. Then we're going to take piece K, which is the brown, which is going to go in the middle, right? And then, and if you wanted to, when you're done, you can overlap that border just a tiny bit, so then there won't be anything sticking out from underneath it. Okay, and so the brown will go in the middle, and then we're going to get our three other, we have 3 borders. I'm going to use this one, and we have piece A. Oh, A, B, and C. A, B, C. I'm looking for a piece. They must have put a sticker underneath. I was looking for this piece that goes. So I have C and K, and then these 3 here are just going to go in the middle of this border. Now you can see that underneath their blue one here, they have that white strip. That is probably a sticker strip that they put underneath, because there's nothing that we have cut to do that. Because we have C, we have K, and then we have T, A, and U, which is our 3 borders. So then the next thing all we're going to have is our 2, which these are Q and R. And then they have it double matted with pieces W and X. So again, you can leave your mats till you determine what pictures you're going to be having on here. You know, you could have one going vertical and horizontal, the same as you could change the ones on the right hand side. So this is going to be not the hardest, but the most time consuming will be getting these lined up to how you're happy with all these triangles at the bottom. And then the rest is mats, and then you can look and see how they have done the embellishments to put the embellishments on your page. So I hope that was kind of straightforward. This one was a little bit more complex than ones that we've had in the past, but that's okay. We can do some that are a little bit more complex. So thank you for joining me today. Make sure that you like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please follow my Facebook page, either Denise Cowell, CM Advisor, or my Scrapbook with Denise, and we'll see you all again next week. Happy scrapping.